My brother is the autistic male lead who's never been much of a talker since childhood. Everyone thought I would be the one to heal him, but who would have guessed? I wanted to try fermented mung bean juice but was too scared. So I had a sudden idea and ordered him a big bowl, eagerly asking, "So, is it good?" My brother frantically waved his hands in refusal. My family keeps pressuring me to get married, and I'm so annoyed that I start talking nonsense. My brother found me 8 guys, and I still haven't chosen one. My brother's face turns red and then pale. Bullet comments keep flashing before my eyes. Ha 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 ha, little sis. You're using the male lead's autism as a bug. Look how anxious the male lead is. He's about to speak. Autistic male lead. Am I the designated scapegoat or something? My older brother has had autism since childhood, because they couldn't handle raising 2 children. My parents sent me, who had just been weaned, to live with my grandmother in the countryside. This separation lasted for 7 years. Except during holidays, we hardly ever saw each other. It wasn't until I reached school age that they brought me back home. On the day I returned, I immediately spotted the slender young man standing at the doorstep. The boy appeared to be about 11 or 12 years old, with neatly groomed black hair, slightly pale skin, and delicate features. Only his dark eyes seemed somewhat vacant. Clinging to the doorframe, he stood there nervously, gazing at me with timid eyes. My mother held my hand, pausing briefly at the sight before introducing me. "Elizabeth, this is your brother Marcus. Come on, say hello to your brother." I pressed my lips together, but before I could speak, a series of glowing subtitles suddenly flashed before my eyes. Here we go. The supporting female character is about to start vying for attention. Woo-woo. The male lead is already so miserable, yet he's about to be bullied by this demonic younger sister. I don't even dare to keep watching. I remember their first meeting here, when the sister opened her mouth with, "I refuse to call an autistic brother," delivering a direct emotional blow to the male lead. But what no one expected was, under the boy's subtly expectant gaze, I curved my lips and sweetly called out, "Brother." The moment the words fell, the boy's eyes instantly lit up. Yes, I was born into this world. After eating poisonous mushrooms in the modern era and ending up in a coffin, I transmigrated into a book. In the story, as the male lead's younger sister, I was spoiled and willful, harboring great disdain for this autistic brother of mine. I often took advantage of when no one was home to humiliate and beat him. After reaching adulthood, I deliberately bullied the female lead, only to be sent abroad by his own hands in the end, with the cause of death unknown. In short, I didn't survive. Damn it. Finally got a second chance at life, only to prepare for an even better demise next time. No, I think there's still hope for me. The barrage comments seem to have finally caught on. What's the little sister up to? She must be hiding her true nature in front of her mom. You'll only realize how terrible she is when the male lead is around. Ignoring the barrage of comments, I walked straight toward Marcus. My mother seemed somewhat worried, glanced at Marcus, and said to me, "Elizabeth, your brother is a bit shy around strangers. You just got back, so go rest first." Hearing this, I glanced again at my brother, who instinctively took a step back as I approached, and nodded. All right. Truth be told, I had no intention of trying to please Marcus. As long as I kept my distance and didn't bully him, I should be able to avoid the original ending, right? With that thought in mind, I happily returned to my room. Thus, I failed to notice the boy behind me staring in my direction for a long time before finally lowering his eyelids in dejection. This family doesn't favor sons over daughters. The room mom prepared for me is similar to Marcus's, except I'm as strong as an ox, so their attention naturally tends to lean toward Marcus. In the original book, Elizabeth would have deeply resented this abnormal brother due to her parents' neglect, but as an adult, my heart has become as numb as if I'd been gutting fish at RT Mart for 30 years. I simply don't care about such trivial favoritism anymore. When dinner time came, I devoured my meal with gusto. Mom did glance at me once more, a flicker of guilt in her eyes as she placed a piece of braised pork on my plate. "Elizabeth, eat more." I looked at the fatty lean braised pork and paused briefly. "I don't like this, that's the truth. I don't eat fatty meat, only lean meat. Hearing this, Mom's expression froze. She exchanged a glance with Dad, who was sitting silently nearby, then reluctantly picked the braised pork from my bowl and placed it into Marcus's bowl. Oh, so this is what Marcus likes to eat. Just as I was about to lower my head and continue eating, another barrage of comments scrolled across the screen. What's the supporting female character up to now? That braised pork looks so delicious. Is she doing it on purpose? I bet she is. Just trying to get Mom and Dad's attention. So young and already knows how to compete for favor. So annoying. Why did the male lead's parents have to have this younger sister anyway? I glanced over, my appetite instantly waning. After forcing down the last few bites, I stood up. I'm full. I'll head back to my room first. Seeing this, Mom slightly stood up. Elizabeth. I stopped in my tracks and turned around, at the dining table. The nearly 40-year-old woman's eyes flickered slightly. Her lips moved as if she wanted to say something but ultimately shook her head. Go ahead. Not understanding what she meant, I placed the bowl in the sink and went back to my room on my own. I had anticipated such a situation when I returned, so I didn't take it too much to heart. I thought tonight would pass just like this, but unexpectedly, after I finished showering and was about to sleep, the door suddenly knocked. I thought it was my mom, so I walked over and opened the door. To my surprise, the person standing outside the door turned out to be Marcus. The young man stood awkwardly at the door, his dark, moist eyes fixed on me. Brother, is there something you need? I hesitated for a moment before asking, what could he want from me in the middle of the night? Hearing my question, the young man tensed up, hurriedly raising his hand to show me the words written in his notebook. Instinctively following his movement, I looked and froze upon seeing what was written there. The words read, Sister, what dishes do you like to eat? Tell me, and I'll remember. Next time, we'll eat what you like. The boy's handwriting was neat and clean, just like his clear, bright eyes. Bullet comments instantly flooded my screen. Woo, the male lead is such a sweetheart. Auntie wants to kiss you. But why is the male lead being so nice to the supporting female character? She's totally faking it. Now that no one's around, she'll probably just mock him outright. Although, the supporting female character's previous attitude didn't really strike me as that kind of person. Upstairs, I sentence you to reread the book 100 times. The barrage comments started to argue, flashing so rapidly it made my eyes ache, and I couldn't help but frown. Marcus couldn't see these barrage comments, but noticing my frown, he grew visibly flustered. His fingers gripping the notebook so tightly they turned white. After a long pause, the boy's eyelids drooped, and his hands fell limply as he hugged the notebook, preparing to turn and leave silently. His slender figure seemed enveloped in the dim light of the corridor, half in shadow, half in light, but he hadn't gone far before he stopped in his tracks. Because I had grabbed his sleeve, Marcus turned back, his eyes still unable to conceal a trace of disappointment. I pressed my lips together. Actually, before transmigrating into the book, I was an only child with no siblings and no experience being a younger sister. I originally thought we could keep to ourselves and not interfere with each other, but who could resist such a well-behaved older brother? I curved my eyes into a smile and started listing dishes. I like sweet and sour pork ribs, garlic vermicelli shrimp, stir-fried baby bok choy with taro, braised eggplant with sauce, crispy fried pork slices. A string of dish names rapidly spilled from my mouth. The young man, who had only looked slightly dazed before, now appeared utterly stunned, yet he still remembered to pick up his pen and began scribbling furiously. His attitude so earnest it was as if he were taking an exam. Seriously, the female side character is actually listing them all. Somehow this feels hilariously funny. Ha ha ha. Male lead, little sister, slow down. My pen is about to catch fire from writing so fast. Ha ha ha, this is absolutely hilarious. The male lead is completely dumbfounded. Isn't this female supporting character just bullying the male lead in another way, taking advantage of his slower reactions? As my peripheral vision caught the last line, I was about to repeat it again when I saw Marcus stop writing. He hugged his notebook like a treasured possession. gave me a smile, then seemed to remember something. He reopened the notebook and lowered his head, writing something unknown. I glanced at the densely packed dish names written in that notebook and suddenly remembered, as the male lead, Marcus not only has no intellectual issues but actually surpasses ordinary people. Ordering these dishes should be a piece of cake for him. With that thought, I felt relieved, but just then, footsteps echoed from the corner of the second floor, and Mom's voice grew closer. "Marcus, what are you doing outside your sister's room?" startled by Mom's sudden voice. Marcus dropped the pen in his hand with a clatter onto the floor. The black pen rolled twice and stopped at my feet. I crouched down to pick it up for him, but he bent over at the same time. With a thud, our foreheads collided. I hissed in pain, tumbling to the ground and landing squarely on my backside. Seeing this, Marcus panicked, instinctively reaching to help me up, but from an outsider's perspective, it looked like he had pushed me down. Just then, Mom had already walked over. I thought she would take Marcus's side, but unexpectedly, Mom hurriedly helped me up from the ground, brushed off the dust on my pajama pants, and softly asked if I was hurt. Before I could answer, she turned to Marcus with a reproachful look, her tone stern. "Marcus, I've put so much effort into you. Your sister grew up with your grandparents and has only just come back. Even if you don't like her, how could you lay a hand on her?" She instinctively thought it was Marcus, fearing that my sudden return would compete for affection with him. Outside the door, Marcus seemed to want to explain something. He shook his head, but Mom's expression was stern. "Apologize to your sister now, you can speak. You're not mute." Hearing this, Marcus's eyes dimmed, but the more he panicked, the less he could speak. "Humph, as I thought. I knew this sister of mine was no good. So young and already so cunning. What a perfect little saint. And here I thought she'd changed for the better. How blind I was." I think it was around this point that Mom started favoring the supporting female character, wasn't it? Argh, the frustration of not being able to punch through the screen. Just as the barrage of comments grew increasingly heated, I spoke up first. Mom, brother didn't push me. I was helping him pick up his pen and accidentally bumped into something. Look, he even came to ask what I'd like to eat." As soon as these words were spoken, not only was Mom stunned, but even the barrage of comments paused for a moment. Has the supporting female character suddenly grown a conscience? This feels a bit off. Not sure. Need to observe more. Is she really not planning to frame the male lead? Who knows if she's just trying to gain favor? Ignoring these subtitles, I took the notebook from Marcus's arms and handed it to my mother. Between siblings, what's the point of all this deceit and trickery? I certainly don't want to play palace intrigue at home. Mother took the notebook, saw the list of dishes written on it, then looked up, seeing the seriousness in my eyes, not at all like someone who'd truly been wronged. She finally relaxed and returned the notebook to Marcus, her voice softening. "Elizabeth, your father and I haven't taken good care of you these years, but now that you're back, I'll remember your preferences from now on." Hearing this, my heart stirred slightly. Ripples of emotion rising within me. In the book, Elizabeth was doted on by her grandparents in the countryside, but upon returning home, she felt a stark contrast. Driven by this imbalance, she vied fiercely for her parents' attention in front of them, while behind their backs, she either hit or scolded Marcus. She thought she had covered her tracks perfectly, unaware that it was her mother who had always believed in her. This ultimately led to her mother being the first to oppose when Elizabeth was to be sent abroad, even at the cost of severing ties with her son, resulting in the shattering of what was once a whole family. Now that I've become her, I naturally won't repeat the same mistakes. Thinking of this, I smiled and said, "That's right. My brother is so smart." He remembered it after just one mention. "Is that so?" Mother looked at Marcus with considerable surprise, facing our two pairs of eyes. Marcus's originally somewhat pale face gradually flushed red, but he still nodded with restraint. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Quite the tsundere. For several consecutive days afterward, seeing that Marcus and I got along harmoniously, Mother finally set her mind at ease. But the barrage comments aren't reassured. Mom, don't believe her. the female antagonist is probably going all out to mess with the male lead. Sigh, who can blame her when she's such a good actress? Just thinking about them being alone together soon makes me feel suffocated. Let me guess, as soon as the parents leave, she'll drop the act, right? To be honest, I've never learned Sichuan face-changing opera. Another morning, when I woke up, I unexpectedly found that my parents had both gone out. Only Marcus was sitting alone in the living room. Since it was summer vacation, Marcus was wearing a simple white t-shirt and long pants. Sitting quietly on the sofa reading a book, hearing the noise, he looked up, with sunlight streaming through the window onto his face. His handsome face was fair and clean, his gaze somewhat vacant, making him look especially easy to bully, but it's okay. I'm a super nice person. With that thought, I walked over to him and asked, "Bro, have you had breakfast yet?" Hearing this, Marcus shook his head and pointed at the 50 yuan bill on the coffee table. The meaning was quite clear. This is the money Mom and Dad left us to buy breakfast. He didn't know what I wanted for breakfast, so he waited hungry until I woke up. Realizing this, my eyes flickered with emotion. In a way, he's actually quite a good older brother. Pushing aside these chaotic thoughts, I picked up 50 yuan from the coffee table, stuffed it into my pocket, and remembered that before transmigrating into the book, I had always wanted to try fermented mung bean juice, but never got the chance. Now that the opportunity was here, my eyes lit up, and I eagerly said, "Let's go, brother, for breakfast." Seeing my enthusiasm, Marcus widened his eyes slightly but obediently followed me out the door. We went to a breakfast shop in the Hudong. It was around 8 or 9 o'clock, and the place was bustling with breakfast goers. Elderly men sat in small groups around tables, chatting about everything under the sun while eating, while young office workers mostly grabbed a few steamed buns to go. Hurrying off in a rush, the steamer exhales the breath of earthly life. Amidst the curling white smoke, I randomly found a seat in the shop. Glancing around, I noticed someone gulping down fermented bean drink with gusto. Inspired, I ordered a large bowl as well. Marcus probably hadn't tried it either, silently watching me place the order. Besides the fermented bean drink, I also ordered steamed buns and fried dough sticks, feeling it was enough before finally putting down the menu. Before long, our breakfast arrived. I glanced at the grayish, fermented mung bean juice, and hesitated to drink it. A clever idea struck me, so I first poured Marcus a large bowl. "Brother, you try it first." Marcus didn't think much of it and took a big sip from the bowl. Seeing this, I quickly asked, "So, is it good?" The next moment, the young man's originally fair face slowly twisted in discomfort, and he frantically waved his hands. "No, no, ptahaha. The female lead is treating the male lead's autism like a bug to exploit. I feel like the younger sister's eager eyes actually want to drink it. Kinda cute. If you can't handle it, just don't drink it. Okay, order a fried dough ring, crumble it into the fermented mung bean juice, then add pickled mustard and soy sauce, and finally toss the whole bowl into the trash. Ha 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 ha, look how frantic the male lead is. He's about to speak. I glanced at the bullet comments, then took one last look at Marcus, who was letting his tongue hang out to air it, before silently picking up a Xiaolongbao. Hee. If it doesn't taste good, I won't drink it after he's had some. After that day, Marcus grew several more layers of caution whenever we ate alone together. He would only take a small sip of anything strange, for example, the fermented tofu I bought. Another example, the stinky tofu I wanted to try. Yet another example, the mixed fruit juice I made myself. Over time, Marcus started speaking more frequently. "Little sister, the juice you made is good, but please don't make it again next time." Mom was actually quite pleased, but after taking a sip of my juice, she handed it to my dad without hesitation. Shortly after, the juicer in our house mysteriously disappeared. In days like these, summer vacation quickly came to an end. I started elementary school. Marcus began middle school. Fortunately, the elementary and middle school divisions in our area were on the same campus, so we still commuted to and from school together. At first, I was worried Marcus might get bullied at school, but I overthought it. Probably the biggest villain in the early part of this book is me, but the current me, utterly honest. In the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed. One Friday after school, as usual, I waited at the gate for Marcus, but even as it grew dark, he never showed up. My heart skipped a beat. By all accounts, middle school should have let out by now. Marcus's autism wasn't severe, but he rarely got close to others and usually came to pick me up after school. My eyelids twitched, and an inexplicable unease washed over me. Without overthinking, I hurried toward the middle school building. The elementary school is not too far from the middle school. At this time, most of the students in the school have already left. Leaving it empty and quiet, I went to Marcus's classroom. But couldn't find him. I looked up at the empty space, wondering if it was because Marcus wasn't by my side that the barrage of comments had disappeared as well. Could it be that he had something come up and went home early today? Just as this thought crossed my mind, I suddenly heard footsteps approaching from not far away. Instinctively, I hid behind the wall at the corner and faintly heard voices. Who would have thought Marcus is actually autistic? Hilarious. Always acting so high and mighty. Thought he was so cool. Turns out he's disabled, can't even speak properly. But wouldn't it be bad if we did that? Locking him alone in the warehouse. What if something happens? What are you afraid of? Haven't you heard? Kids with autism are all timid. He wouldn't dare to tell on us. TSK, who told Dora to be so nice to him. Dora, the female lead in the original book, was gentle and kind, and she was also Marcus' deskmate. Could it be because Dora was nice to Marcus, which made others jealous of Marcus? Very likely. I fell silent for a moment, but still rushed to the warehouse behind the school without hesitation. This so-called warehouse is where discarded old tables and chairs are stored, and usually no one comes here. As soon as I approached, I heard the sound of pounding on the door from inside. It must be Marcus. My eyes lit up, and I was about to step forward when suddenly something hard hit the back of my head. A sharp pain struck me, and I staggered before collapsing to the ground, my vision darkening for a moment. The vanished barrage of comments reappeared once more. Wait, what's going on? Isn't the female lead supposed to be gentle and kind? Why would she attack her sister? Something feels off. The female lead's gaze is terrifying. Ah, I see the little sister bleeding. Is she going to die? Has the female lead appeared? Instinctively, I covered the back of my head and felt a warm wetness. In the darkness, I could only watch helplessly as a slender figure passed by me and headed straight for the warehouse door. But my vision was growing increasingly blurry. Am I really going to die? Sister, sister, wake up, a frantic voice kept calling in my ear, pulling my drifting consciousness back into my body. Dazedly, I opened my eyes and saw Marcus looking at me with deep concern. His lips were chapped from anxiety as he crouched beside me. The corners of his eyes reddened. I looked around. It was pitch black. Still at school. However, Marcus was supposed to be rescued by Dora, wasn't he? How did he end up back here? I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, I heard the sound of an ambulance. Medical staff in white coats came down with a stretcher and lifted me onto it. Marcus also got into the ambulance and took out his phone to call Mom. His words were as brief as ever. Mom, I found our sister. See you at First Hospital. Me. Wouldn't this scare our parents to death? But Marcus clearly didn't think so. After hanging up the phone, he tightly grasped my hand. I keenly noticed his hand was trembling, but lacked the strength to speak, so I could only weakly return his grip. A head full of questions remained unresolved, yet my eyelids grew increasingly heavy. Just as I was about to fall asleep, Marcus woke me up. Little sister, you're not allowed to sleep. Brother will tell you a story. Okay. This is the first time I've seen the male lead say so much. The little sister seems so weak. Woo-woo. She hasn't done anything wrong. Don't die. Could it be a forced logout? I caught the last message and jolted upright like a dying man rising from his sickbed. That was close, having narrowly escaped death once. I won't let it take me back so easily. I forced myself to stay alert and managed to hold on until I reached the hospital. Even when given anesthesia, I kept my eyes open, afraid that if I closed them, I might never wake up again. It wasn't until the surgery was over that I finally let out a sigh of relief. By the time I was out of danger and moved to a regular ward, it was already the next morning. At first glance, I saw my parents pacing back and forth at the hospital room door, along with Marcus. Seeing my pale face, my mother's eyes instantly reddened, and she instinctively blamed Marcus. "It's all your fault. If she hadn't gone to look for you, she wouldn't have gotten hurt." Marcus pressed his lips together but didn't argue back. I wanted to shake my head, but the slightest movement sent a sharp pain through my skull, forcing me to stop. "Mom, don't blame brother. He didn't do anything wrong. Mom knows. Mom just feels heartbroken for you." Mom helped the medical staff lift me onto the hospital bed. Her voice choked with emotion. I sighed softly and said earnestly, "But Mom, when you say things like that, brother will feel hurt." Adults always feel more for the injured child, while either neglecting or blaming the other child who wasn't hurt. Words spoken without thought may be taken to heart. Hearing this, Dad also chimed in. "Yes, Marcus and Elizabeth are both good kids. It's only right for siblings to help each other." Mom nodded repeatedly. "All right, I won't say things like that anymore. I won't say it. Little sister is truly so sweet." Sob sob. "Such a good baby. Moi moi." "But why is it completely different from the original book's plot?" "Never mind. It's not important. If you like it, keep watching." But am I the only one curious about what's going on with the female lead? I'm curious too. After finally waiting for my parents to leave, I grabbed Marcus. Just as I was about to speak, I noticed his bloodshot eyes and softened, swallowing back the words I was about to say. "Brother, I'm fine. You should go rest first." But Marcus shook his head and said word by word, "I'm not reassured." With that, without waiting for me to continue persuading him, he moved a chair over and sat beside me, looking utterly unyielding. I couldn't do anything about him, but feeling uneasy, I rolled my eyes and patted the bed. "How about you come up and sleep for a while? I'll sit here beside you. After all, it's my head that's injured. I slept a bit after the surgery and now I'm feeling more energetic." Marcus, "Ha ha ha ha, little sis, listen to what you're saying. Isn't this completely backwards?" "Marcus, my little sister seems to have lost her mind." Just as the barrage comment flashed by, Marcus suddenly stood up and rushed toward the door, shouting loudly, "Doctor, no. There's nothing wrong with my brain." I stayed in the hospital for half a month. For the first few days, Marcus was by my side almost every day, and later my parents took turns coming to relieve him. It wasn't until after being discharged from the hospital and confirming there were no issues that we finally returned to school. During my hospital stay, I managed to catch Marcus and ask about Dora, but his response was ambiguous. He only said that after Dora helped him open the warehouse door, they left the school together. Later, when he returned home and found I still wasn't there, he rushed back to school in a panic. Just as he was at a loss, he suddenly received Dora's message, saying she might have seen me near the warehouse, though she wasn't certain. Marcus didn't overthink it and ran to search near the warehouse, where he found me unconscious. After hearing this, I fell into deep thought for a long time. In the original story, I didn't meet the female lead until college. Displeased by her relationship with Marcus, I deliberately made things difficult for her, but according to the timeline, at this point, Dora and I have no grudges. Would she really go behind my back to harm me? And judging by the barrage comments, they don't know either. But since I couldn't figure it out, I decided not to dwell on it for the time being. However, I didn't expect to meet Dora on my very first day back at school, because I had taken half a month off. The homeroom teacher asked me to come to the office after I returned. Nothing much was said, just a few simple words of concern before I was dismissed. As I stepped out of the office, I bumped into a girl with delicate features. She appeared to be around the same age as Marcus, holding a stack of exercise books in her arms. She must have come to the office to hand in her assignments. Upon seeing me, the girl's eyes flickered slightly. It was almost instinctive. I felt she was the girl from that night. In other words, the female lead Dora. Sure enough, a teacher carrying tea came out of the office, saw her, and smiled. "Dora, you're here. just leave the homework on my desk, okay, teacher, Dora responded softly, her eyes brimming with tenderness, but as she passed by me, I distinctly felt her body stiffen for a moment. Just an instant, before she quickly regained her composure, I called out to her, Dora, you're my brother's desk mate, right? Hearing my voice suddenly, the girl paused in her movements, almost dropping the stack of notebooks in her arms. After a long while, just when I thought she wouldn't respond, a very soft voice reached my ears. I'm sorry. With those words, the girl didn't look back and quickly entered the office, leaving me standing there alone, if I heard correctly. Did she just apologize to me? I was still thinking about this matter when school was out. Marcus, who was walking home with me, didn't understand what was going on. Seeing me silent, he thought I was upset. He rummaged through his pocket and finally pulled out a quick memorization booklet for high school entrance exam English vocabulary. I silently watched as he placed the English vocabulary booklet in front of me, my eyelids twitching violently. Thanks, but no thanks, no. What kind of person carries this thing around in their pocket all the time? As the words fell, a light chuckle suddenly reached my ears. I turned around to see the young man with a smile playing at the corners of his lips and brows, a faint glimmer of mischief flashing in his eyes. It's useful, got it. He was teasing me on purpose. What does a third grader like me need to learn middle school entrance exam vocabulary for? I stepped on his shoe and ran off. Humph, just bullying him. Marcus wasn't angry either, chasing after while waving that obnoxious English vocabulary quick memorization booklet. Clear, bright laughter echoed along the path home. It happened to be sunset, the orange-yellow light stretching our two shadows very long. But when neither of us noticed, a slender figure stood quietly at the school gate. The days passed by peacefully like this. I tentatively asked Marcus about Dora. According to him, Dora was usually kind to others, well-liked.
A lead will become a nationally renowned designer in the future, so her first work must be worth a fortune. I happily put it away. Excellent. Getting ready to lie flat. The year I graduated from college, my brother got together with Dora. I didn't have much of a reaction when I found out. After all, it was the official pairing, but I never expected, after my brother got into a relationship, my mom turned her matchmaking attention to me. Elizabeth, have you met any boys at university? At the dinner table? My mom glanced at my dad, placed a piece of sweet and sour pork rib in my bowl, and casually asked, beside us. Marcus silently ate his meal. I chewed and replied, nope, in the original book. I should have been dead by now, afraid that something might go wrong. I spent my college years just eating, drinking, and enjoying life. Who had time to think about falling in love? Hearing my words, Mom paused for a moment, but she wasn't ready to give up. Look, your brother is about to settle down. And it's time for you to find a partner too. I can't always be by your side, blah blah blah. I was getting annoyed and glanced at Marcus, who was still quietly eating, before spouting nonsense. Big brother found 8 for me, I just haven't chosen yet. As soon as these words were spoken, Marcus dropped the eggplant he was holding with a plop onto the table, his eyes widening in disbelief. When did he find 8 partners for his sister? How come he didn't know about it? Help, I'm dying of laughter. LMAO. Male lead, little sister, don't you dare set me up. Shocked expression, autistic male lead, am I some kind of professional scapegoat? My mother was clearly stunned too, but soon. This middle-aged woman composed herself and earnestly asked Marcus, are the people you're introducing reliable? You can't set your sister up with some oddballs. Even my father snapped out of his shock and slowly remarked, meeting several potential matches at once is quite convenient, saves time and effort. Now it was my turn to be dumbfounded. No, do you all have such strong acceptance abilities? After finally finishing the meal, I quickly retreated to my room. I thought this matter was over, but I didn't expect. Late at night, my IG was flooded with numerous friend requests. At the same time, I received a message from my brother, take a look at these 8 first. Me, 6, but my hand was still honest enough to click add all. My brother probably took my mom's words to heart. All the guys he found for me were handsome with great figures. After scrolling through their social media posts, I felt like my nose was about to bleed. Haha, now I can somewhat understand the joy an emperor feels when flipping the royal plaques. One word, exhilarating. Dora extra. Dora didn't know why she suddenly lashed out at a little girl. By the time she realized what had happened, the little girl in front of her had already collapsed. Her heart raced with panic and fear, but to her surprise, she didn't step forward to help the girl up. Instead, she coldly stepped over her and headed straight for the warehouse. That was Marcus's location. Because she had left something at school and came back to retrieve it, she accidentally overheard her classmates' conversation. She immediately realized that Marcus was in trouble. Without a second thought for the things she dropped, her instincts drove her to save Marcus. The moment she pushed the door open, the boy who had been engulfed in darkness abruptly lifted his head. When their eyes met, his gaze trembled violently. "Dora," she heard herself say. "Yeah, I forgot something and came back to school to get it. Then I ran into those people, so I came looking for you." Marcus pursed his lips, his voice sincere. "Thank you." Afterwards, they left the warehouse together and exited the school gate. It wasn't until she returned home that she snapped out of that state, staring at her hands. The color began to drain from her lips. What had she done? Will that girl die? She wanted to report it to the police, but she didn't dare, until she learned Marcus's sister was missing. Only then did she finally realize, that girl is most likely Marcus's sister. She actually laid hands on Marcus's sister, but why? She was confused, overwhelmed by a flood of emotions, pain, guilt, so intense it nearly consumed her. Suddenly, her head began to ache terribly. At that very moment, an unfamiliar memory surfaced in her mind. It turned out she was the female lead in a redemption story, and Marcus's sister was the villainess, who would abuse Marcus at home, while she was destined to heal Marcus. She had no idea what twist in the plot had led her to inexplicably hurt someone. As if the plot was correcting itself, in the depths of her mind, a voice seemed to tell her to follow the script, but she still sent Marcus a message, simply because she had once heard him mention that he had a very adorable younger sister. Even if Elizabeth holds her accountable afterward, she will never shirk responsibility. She won't become a puppet of the plot. The end.